who started as a missing person case has now tragically turned into a homicide investigation. Officers, investigators, and agents will work diligently together to solve this case and bring justice for MyAngel Walker.
What began as a missing persons case took a dark turn when 18-year-old MyAngel Walker, a bright young woman with a promising future, was found dead in a burned car just days after disappearing. And now, 2 teens are facing charges for her murder and the attempt to cover it up. We're going to unravel the heartbreaking events that led to this tragedy and the chilling details of a case that has left a small town in shock. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. A seemingly ordinary morning turned into an absolute nightmare for the family of 18-year-old MyAngel Walker when this bright young woman who was supposed to report for work at a local healthcare facility in Clinton, South Carolina, never showed up. Her loved ones immediately knew something was wrong, but it was soon after that they started searching for her and they realized they weren't looking for somebody who was still alive. So let's start right at the beginning when this tragic story unfolded. We go to December 12th. MyAngel was supposed to report to work at the NHC healthcare facility in the morning, but as I said, she never came in. So her family tries to contact her, can't get a hold of her. They report her missing to local police that evening. Hours pass by, and Lawrence Police Chief Heath Copeland told Fox Carolina that by nightfall, police realized this was beyond just a missing persons case. And what happens? The very next day, police find MyAngel's body inside of a burned vehicle in Greenwood County. It's our understanding this is about 30 miles away. The car appeared to have been set on fire and was off in a wooded area near the road. But here's the thing. Although the car was burned, it doesn't appear that MyAngel died from that. The autopsy results revealed that MyAngel was actually shot to death. Although, to be clear, more details about where the gunshot wound or wounds were really haven't been released yet. Now, before I get any further into the case and who might have done this, I want to bring on trial attorney Adante Pointer. Adante, thanks so much for coming on. I know this is a difficult case to talk about, but I want to start by asking you about the missing persons report that sparked this investigation. How significant is the timing of a missing persons report in a case like this?
The timing of when a person is reported missing is critical because essentially we know and have learned, and the data shows that the longer the time that passes, that decreases the likelihood of finding that person. So it's very important that people reach out to law enforcement immediately in order to get them on the case so that they can essentially search and investigate the trail of clues.
Yeah, this is a pretty awful story, but look, we appreciate you guys following it with us, coming to us for this story, and we have to thank our sponsor, Upside, because it's with their support that helps make episodes like this possible. Now, if you don't know what Upside is, it's great. It is a free app that gets you cash back when you buy daily essentials like gas, groceries, food. This is real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you transfer right into your bank account. Look here, I used Upside to find a gas station near me. I claimed an offer on Upside, pay with my credit card at the pump, follow the steps on the app, and I got cash back. It is super simple, and you can use Upside at all different kinds of places, restaurants, convenience stores. So to find out how much you can earn, you can click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen. But make sure to use our promo code SIDEBAR because you get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. What do you make of the fact that the body was found about 30 miles away in a neighboring county? What does that tell you about a potential suspect? Again, this is before I'll get into who was arrested in connection with this case.
Yeah, so essentially what that tells you is that the person that came in contact with that, essentially killed her was someone that either came into contact with her within her circle of friends or contacts, or happens chance crossed her path. But it's not as if this person came into contact with her on the other side of the country or she's on vacation. This is someone that also likely lives in close proximity to the victim.
And somebody who has a car and is able to transport a body that way, or knows somebody who'll be able to transport the body that way. So going back to what happened here, soon after authorities launched their investigation, they landed on the person that they believe is responsible for MyAngel's death. And according to MyAngel's mother, Sade Woodruff, it was none other than MyAngel's on-again, off-again ex-boyfriend. Local police announced the arrest during a press conference last week.
We have a man charged with murder of the MyAngel Walker. So we've charged him. He's 19 with the murder of MyAngel Walker, 18. On December 12th, 2024, family members of MyAngel Walker reported her missing to the Lawrence Police Department. During the course of the investigation, it was determined that Walker was last seen in the city limits here in Clinton. A joint investigation was immediately launched by Clinton Police Department and Lawrence Police Department. As the investigation advanced, it extended into Newberry County and Greenwood County. With additional assistance from the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office, Newberry County Sheriff's Office, Greenwood County Sheriff's Office, and the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, we started as a missing person case has now tragically turned into a homicide investigation. Officers, investigators, and agents will work diligently together to solve this case and bring justice for MyAngel Walker. Presley has been arrested and charged today, December the 13th, with the murder of MyAngel Walker. Presley has been charged with murder and possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime.
19-year-old Malachi Presley, a supposed on-again, off-again boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, who, according to MyAngel's mother, seemed to suggest that her daughter may have been abused by this man, because according to an interview that she gave to Fox Carolina, she appeared to give a very chilling piece of advice to anyone going through what she says her daughter was allegedly going through, saying in part, anybody that's going through any type of domestic dispute, being abused, anything, get away if you're able to get away. Adante, I just want to get your thoughts on that. We don't really have a whole lot to base this claim off of, but saying there was a concern of domestic violence, what do you make of that? And also, I'll couple that also with, how does the legal system address domestic violence in cases where the victim is killed or allegedly killed by a partner or ex-partner?
My heart goes out to the family of MyAngel, to hear from the mother that she was concerned about domestic violence and abuse. It just really is the type of thing that any parent cringes, any type of person has any heart is really taken aback by. Because what you understand is that they're in some sort of toxic relationship, and not only was there abuse, but it ultimately led to a conclusion of death. And you want people to step in to help someone who's suffering from that. And as she said in her plea, if you're in a situation, in a relationship like that, get away as quick as you can, because the results can be deadly.
And, does the alleged abusive history between Presley and MyAngel strengthen the case? How would it affect a potential prosecution against him?
Sure. When prosecutors are confronted with evidence, or if they have evidence of abuse within a relationship and there's ultimately a death, then they're going to use that to strengthen their case and to prove up the point that this person was violent, that a person had been suffering prior instances of injuries or had been telling people about prior instances of abuse. And that lends itself, if you will, to analyzing and contextualizing the evidence for the actual murder case. And so that actually is a very, very powerful pieces of evidence that prosecutors will marshal together in order to convince and persuade and prove to a jury that this person, it wasn't some random event, it wasn't a heat of passion, it wasn't a moment of insanity, but instead this was a conclusion of a pattern of abuse, and it reached its deadly, deadly endpoint.
That is something I want to explore a little bit more. So again, the reports are that he's been charged with a murder. If he claims self-defense, if he claims an emotional outburst, because I think under South Carolina law, they recognize an extreme emotional disturbance or, heat of passion type argument as a form of manslaughter. Would that work here as a reason for the shooting, assuming he did this? What kind of evidence would the defense need to present to make that argument credible?
Well, in order for a defendant to make a credible claim of self-defense or heat of passion, you have to have some type of evidence to marshal to your benefit. And in a situation like that, you're looking at defensive wounds, you're looking at witnesses who would be able to prove up that he himself was a victim. However, at this early stage, none of that tends to lend itself to the evidence that we have so far in front of us. And what we say by that is this young lady was shot with a gun. She was driven 30 miles away from where she lives. She was found in a car that was burned up, which are all indicators of guilt, trying to cover up evidence, trying to cover up the crime, trying to evade arrest. A person who's a victim that has killed someone in a legally justified way in self-defense, you don't do those type of things because you know you're innocent, you know it's self-defense, and you wouldn't engage in that type of cover-up. And so I don't think that that's going to fly. As I often have told clients when I did my criminal defense work, just because it's an argument, it doesn't mean it's a winning argument.
That's fair, although I will tell you, and not to not to defend the allegations here, I have seen cases before where somebody says, I didn't murder this person, but yes, I panicked and I disposed of the body. And that sometimes worked.
You're exactly correct. It's not that if a person who killed someone out of self-defense, they've never panicked and think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get in a bunch of trouble. Maybe people won't believe me. And then they try to hide evidence of the crime. But in this situation, it's much more disturbing because you have a gunshot wound, you have the body being moved 30 miles, and then you have the car set on fire, and then you have couple that with the mother talking about claims of prior abuse. Once again, the argument could be made for a legally justified killing, but just with the cards as they are currently set up, sitting face up, it doesn't seem to be a very credible argument.
So I want to go back to this. I want to go to these arrest warrants because police say that the day before MyAngel was reported missing, Presley shot her sometime in the evening hours between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. And that was on Gary Street, which is in Clinton, South Carolina. And in addition to the murder charge, Presley's also facing a weapons possession charge. But this is where the story takes another turn because police say he did not act alone. They also arrested a second teenager who they say helped Presley.
Additionally, Taylor Connard, 19, has been arrested and charged as an accessory after the fact in connection with this case.
So after MyAngel was shot, police say Presley disposed of her body with the help of 19-year-old Taylor Kinnard. And according to local reporting on the details of Kinnard's warrant, police allege that Kinnard did render assistance to Presley by aiding in the disposal of Walker's body. Dante, back to you. When we talk about accessory after the fact, how does that work? How do you prove it? And how do you defend against it?
Yeah, sure. In this situation, you have a teenager, a young lady who police allege assisted this man with essentially disposing or trying to cover up the crime, the evidence of the murder, of the killing. And so what defense will try to argue is, hey, I didn't know what was taking place. I may have driven the car, I may have sat in the car, but that's going to be pretty tough. She would have to show, and evidence would have to prove that essentially maybe she got in the car and didn't know the body was in the back. The police and the prosecutors, on the other hand, would be seeking to prove you were aware a crime had taken place. You were aware that you were now helping and abating and assisting the person, the perpetrator of the crime, with trying to cover it up. Whether that's driving the car that the body was in and you knew the body was in the trunk, whether that's when the car was pulled over and they set the car on fire, you knew a body was in there. Maybe it's just him telling you, hey, I killed this young lady. I'm panicked. I'm scared out of my mind. Can I borrow your car? And you allow him to do it. Given the way and the type of evidence, or I should say the facts, if you will, that the police allege and how they put together the story and the narrative, it appears to me that this is a classic case. A person gets in trouble, they called somebody, that person tries to help them, and instead they find themselves in a world of trouble. And that's what aiding and abetting will do for you. You then are also charged in the case, and you now are facing serious criminal sanctions.
By the way, I have a question for you. In this case, the evidence involves this burned vehicle, involves a gunshot wound. What would be the challenges that law enforcement would face, or I should say prosecutors would face, in proving that it was Presley who was responsible for MyAngel's death? Do you think, and by the way, because given that the body was found in a burned car, I wonder if evidence could be contaminated, if you really can, reconstruct the scene to explain exactly what happened.
Yes. Well, in a situation where authorities are investigating a killing and the body has been burned, has been like here in a car, and the car has been set afire, the fire and the heat in and of itself will destroy a lot of evidence, fingerprints, DNA, and things of that nature. However, a gunshot wound cannot be wiped away by fire, and that's why even if the body was charred or had been burnt to unrecognizable degree, they still would be able to figure out what the cause of death was. However, that does pose a very difficult challenge for law enforcement to place him in the car or touching the body or of having, finding his fingerprints on the steering wheel and things like that. However, there's another element here. There's a second person who's been charged as an accessory after the fact. Just given my experience dealing with criminal cases and evaluating it and defending people, I'd imagine they got some statements from these two teenagers and or they got some evidence from their phones. And that's what law enforcement will use, if you will, to put a bow on the case.
That is a really, really good point. That is a really good point, that digital evidence. And I also have to ask you, I didn't see reporting on this, could be wrong, but I didn't see anything about arson charges or tampering with evidence charges. You think those would be added? How would that complicate the case for either of these individuals?
Sure. Well, the police and prosecutors are free to add charges at any time based upon the evidence and as it's developed. And so we're in the early stages of the investigation, but certainly those charges for arson could be added to one or both of the criminal suspects or defendants once the police arrive at that point. However, if they are charged with arson, that tends to be a situation in aggravation and certainly adds to the exposure as it relates to a prison or jail commitment for either of these young people if they're actually convicted of the crime. So arson ups the ante, it raises the stakes, and it just increases their criminal exposure. So, it'll just put them in even more hot water, so to speak.
Now, I will tell you what the latest is on this case. Both teens, they made their first court appearances on Saturday. They were both denied bond. And as for MyAngel's family and the surrounding community, as you can imagine, her death has just rocked the town in Lawrence, South Carolina. This young woman was described as someone so bright, caring, had dreams of becoming a nurse. In fact, the Lawrence District 55 College, where MyAngel had recently graduated, they posted this very heartfelt tribute on Facebook, writing, "This is a post we never wanted to make, and we pray we never have to make again. MyAngel Walker was an important and wonderful part of the Gear Up family. We are going to miss her laugh, her hugs, and her ability to always make whatever she was doing a good time." Both Presley and Kinnard are currently being held at the Johnson Detention Center. Presley scheduled for a preliminary hearing on January 31st. Adante, real quick, before we wrap up, what should we be expecting from a preliminary hearing in this case?
Well, the preliminary hearing is the prosecutor's opportunity, and it's often called the prosecutor's show. The prosecutor is going to put up evidence, doesn't have to put up the whole case, but a sufficient amount of evidence to establish probable cause that it's more likely than not that these two individuals committed the charged crime. So it's a preview, if you will, of any trial that would be sure to come down the line. From a defense perspective, you're trying to poke holes in the credibility of witnesses and extract information that you think will help you show that your client isn't the one who likely did the crime and or set it up for trial for a defense to be presented to a jury.
And I will tell you, for anybody watching this, authorities, they are continuing this investigation. In the Clinton Police Department, they are asking anybody with information about this case to contact the Clinton Police Department at the number that you see right there on your screen, or the Crime Stoppers tip line at 68-crime. Adante Pointer, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me. Till we meet again.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.